So the day after college graduation, the U-Haul with all my belongings was stolen. Real welcome to the real world. I packed up all my belongings, like pots, pans, clothes, shoes. You've moved. And we put it and drove it to the Airbnb, unhitched it, and so I could use the car for the rest of graduation. At some point in the night, thieves reversed, hitched my trailer to their car, and drove away with it. Which was shocking. And my dad came in, he woke up, went outside, saw it was gone, looked at me, came back inside, his bleary-eyed, very hungover daughter, and said, the U-Haul is gone. And I sat up in the couch and I said, my journals. I didn't care about the pots, the pans, the clothes, or the shoes. I had 8 years of handwritten journals, 4 from high school, 4 from college. It didn't take me 8 years to graduate. And all of my scrapbooks were also in this U-Haul. And so I wrote on Craigslist this note saying, if you stole this U-Haul, keep everything. Just give me my journals, give me cross streets, drop them off at a library, anything. And my dad's Craigslist email, a Hotmail account, gets flooded with these emails from strangers, very kind, offering me pots, pans, clothes, shoes, no journals. So I fill out a police form, I put the serial numbers of the things that I had, and I drive from Tucson, Arizona to Sacramento, California. It was a very easy drive because I was towing nothing. I get to Sacramento and I start getting a bunch of notifications that I'm writing checks in Tucson, Arizona, and it turns out they had taken the checks that were in my U-Haul and the ID that was in my U-Haul and were now using my identity to buy things in Tucson. And I knew that I was not writing these checks because I was in Sacramento and I'm a millennial. I don't use checks. So the bank believes me. I also graduated with a degree in journalism, so I am unemployed at the time. And I have a lot of time, so I start calling the stores, Dillard's, Victoria's Secret, Sephora, it's a woman. And I'm like, hey, you guys are the victim of fraud. I'm a victim of fraud. Quit letting her buy stuff there. And the Sephora manager calls me an hour later and says, she was just here. I'm like, call the cops. And she didn't. She called mall security. And there was a small chase through the mall and a small chase through the mall parking lot, but she gets away. And that's when everything stopped. She stopped writing checks. Everything goes away. I do eventually get a job in journalism, thank God. And I replace all the stuff that you can replace. I start journaling again. And I get a call from the Tucson Police Department that says, is this Michelle Monroe? Which is terrifying because it's the cops. And I said, yes. And they said, is this the Michelle Monroe who filed a theft report? And I was like, oh, yes, not arrested again, thank God. And they go, we found some of your stuff. And I go, my journals. No. They go, we found the serial numbers on this, like a television, doesn't matter. And they're like, do you want to come drive to Tucson to pick up your stuff? And at this point, no. Like, it's not worth the gas to drive to Tucson. I'd already replaced everything. I'd already come to grips with, like, the trauma. I called it being aggressively Marie Kondoed. Except she does let you keep the things that bring you joy. And thank you. And I never see the journals again, but there are 2 lessons, of course, to learn from this, which is number 1, don't put anything in a U-Haul that you like will miss if it gets stolen. And number 2, save your serial numbers, because someday you could get a report from a cop that tells you they found it in the basement of gun traffickers during a federal ATF raid, and someone somewhere did indeed eventually go to prison, and that brings me joy.